Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to do some work on this head. As you can see in my last video, we got the valves out and the studs, dowel pins, and we got the combustion chamber cleaned up a little bit. So in this video, we're going to do a little bit of porting in the intake and the exhaust. We're going to surface the head gasket area. As you can see, there's a beautiful scratch in there, straight from Yamaha at the factory, since this has never been apart. But before we get to that, we're going to remove the paint on this. As you can see, it's scratched up, unfortunately. So we're going to remove the paint and then vapor blast it. So let's get started with removing the paint. Alright, so to get rid of this paint, we're going to use some of this Ready Strip stuff. You can find this at hardware stores. It doesn't really matter the brand, but it's not super quick, but it removes it and it works. Just spread this stuff on pretty thick where it's got the paint, and only where it's got the paint. And once this stuff is all on here good and it's sat for a while, sometimes you can put on a couple coats. Stuff starts to dry up, and a couple coats helps it work better. Once it's starts to peel the paint, and then you can scrape it off, and sometimes you have to reapply again. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Get all this stuff on and then wait, and then we can peel the paint off. So to scrape off the paint, it's been on here for a couple hours. Put a couple coats on, and it was in front of the heater, so it got nice and warm. As you can see now, it scrapes off pretty easy, just with a Scotch-Brite pad and some water. Most of the paint's coming off. Alright guys, we got the rest of the paint off of this head here, and it's pretty much ready for vapor blasting. But before I do that, I'm going to finish porting. As you can see, I already started a little bit here, and this is one of the tougher shots I had to do to get the camera in with a light and be able to grind. So we'll see how it goes. I'll throw you up a picture of how tight we are in here. But as you can see, I've already started grinding a little bit here. I got this carbide bit on a Ryobi die grinder, which will give us good control. I have it on mode 1, which goes up to 10,000, but I'm just going to the first speed that it lets me do. Since it's a brushless DC motor, it has a set speed, and the first speed is however fast that is, probably around 5,000. Should be good enough to do a little bit of porting here. So I'm gonna see if I can catch all this in the shot. But basically, I get it up to that first speed and just start taking away material. And all I'm trying to do with this is get most of the casting marks off. You know, the cast finish, you can see it in this area here. It's kind of that rough finish, and it's in the ports too. I'm trying to get that off, and there are some areas that's rougher than other parts, and I've already grinded some of that off here, but there is some more in there, and I'll try and zoom into it, but it's in there, and I'm trying to get that off and get the rest of this port super clean and shiny. Now you got to be super careful with these carbide burrs, because they can catch, and if they catch, they might they'll hook some of the aluminum, and they might bounce around, and these things take off a serious amount of metal if you get them going fast. So you got to be careful with these, use them wisely. So you can see right there, that is the basic finish that I'm trying to get. Pretty shiny. So I'll go around and do the rest of these ports, and I'll even come in from the upper parts. Let me get a little bit of that for you guys. So you can see the valve guides here, and you want to be really careful about the valve guides, because they are the only thing that actually makes your valve seal. and there are some casting marks in here, and I probably won't try and get them out right now because I need to get set up better and be super careful with this bit I have. So I'll keep working through this and I'll show you guys the end result next. Alright guys, I spent a while, probably about 3 hours, getting this thing all ported. That's why you guys only saw a little bit of it. So I got a lot done, as you can see here down the intake port. I got all 3 as far as I could go with this carbide bit. It only goes so far, and I was hoping to get some longer ones for doing this, but I couldn't find any around, and I didn't want to order any. But yeah, as you can see, pretty far up in there. And I've already sanded this side. I'll show you guys that on the exhaust sides next, but you can see I super carefully got into these ports too and got a little bit of the area right where there's some casting close to the valve seats. And as you can see, here is the exhaust side that's a little bit rougher because I haven't sanded it yet, and there was this area right here that I wasn't able to get the tool. It's kind of like a dip, but that's fine. Doesn't need to be all hogged out, and the exhaust is a little less important than the intake, and I did the same thing on these getting in there. So I'm gonna sand these guys. I'm starting off, I got this little sanding drum kit. Starting off with this is an 80 grit here that I'm gonna use, and basically what I'm gonna do is, it's a little bit less violent than the carbide, and you can just come in here. This thing's only rated for 4,000 RPM, so it's not meant to really be on the die grinder, but I'm making it work. So as you can see, it just smooths out all the tooling left by the carbide burr. So I'll finish getting this done with the 80 grit, then I'll move on to 120 on that, and then I'll show you guys how I'm gonna finish this. Alright guys, we got everything sanded up to 120 grit, both exhaust and intake. And now I'm gonna sand down each of the valve holes by the valve seats, but not get the valve seats, and I'm gonna use this tool here. It's got a Scotch-Brite wheel from Prime MX, and this one's pretty worn down, so it'll fit down each of these holes, and I'll just carefully work it around and get some of the casting off and just clean it up. Then once I'm done with that, I'll get a bigger one and I'll run that down the main ports just to polish it a little bit more. Alright, so you can see in there, cleans that up pretty good. I did the center intake valve. So I'll do the rest of them like that, and I'll get back to you. Alright guys, we got the porting done here. As you can see, pretty shiny in there. Not all the marks from the tooling are gone, but it's pretty good. Here's the exhaust side. Should flow way better than it did. I cleaned up the compression chamber a little bit just with that Scotch-Brite wheel. So now we're ready to get this thing vapor blasted. There's no paint on it, hopefully not. And so we're gonna tape up some things here. We got, I don't know if you guys saw this, but we got banjo bolt with 10 crush washers or something on it. So that'll keep this oil passage blocked off. And then for these 2 oil holes, there's one here and one here. We're gonna run some tape from the bottom and roll it up on both of them, and do the same for these 2 oil passages right here, and then tape over all these bolt holes just in case there's anything in there. We'll clean out the valve guides after we're done vapor blasting, and we'll probably put a plug into this coolant passage here, and I'll mostly blast from the top like this. So let's get it taped up and then we can blast. All right guys, we got it all taped off here pretty good, and we're gonna throw it into the vapor blast cabinet, and hopefully all of the paint is off of this. Otherwise I'm probably gonna have to dry blast it, dry it all off, and then dry blast it, and then vapor blast it. So we'll see how it goes here. Alright guys, we're just about finished with the final polishing pass on the final side of this head. So we'll have to pull it out and get it all hosed off and then see how it looks. I think it should look pretty cool. Alright guys, we got this head finished vapor blasting here, and it turned out pretty amazing. As you can see, super shiny. I'm sure the camera does not do it justice. It never does, and it's hard filming in the light that I'm working with right now. But it's way better. There's no scratch on the front anymore. I'll probably roll up a shot of that scratch. It was, I think, right over here. And it just overall turned out pretty good. Still a tiny little bit of paint right there, as you can see, on the exhaust where the bolt would go, but you're not going to see that, so I'm fine with that being there. And I'll get this cleaned up a little bit more once we get these valves lapped, so that's our next job. But that's probably going to be it for this video. I might get these lapped in during this video and then we can assemble next video, but I'll see about time. If I don't have time, this is going to be it. So thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and have a great day.